and is really what we continue to run today,
Sure.
right? It's a beautiful 20-room boutique hotel right on the sands of Bahia de los Sueños, with, complete with equestrian center and chapel and entertainment center and theaters. It's really just a little piece of heaven, and a lot of people here in Southern California, Nevada, Arizona know about it and visit it quite often.
So let's. I do want to keep talking about the location and the place, and I'm fine with it, with promoting it for sure. I mean, that's part of what we're doing here, is helping other businesses get some exposure. I want to zero in on one thing that I got to experience with you there on the property, and that was visiting a home that was built on the bluffs, or being built on the bluffs at the time, and it was like a 20,000 square foot. It had the agave press underneath the kitchen, or underneath the dining room table. You have to know what I'm talking about right now, don't you?
Oh, absolutely, Villa Hermosa.
So tell us about that house.
Talking to the owner yesterday.
Jeez. Can you would be able to do a much better job of describing the experience inside that home than I will, for a variety of reasons, but primarily because I'm assuming it's finished now. When I was there, it was still under construction, but I was blown away by what was going on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's there's a handful, 5, 6 different homes that were built there in Bahia de los Sueños that are just absolutely amazing, right? And large, sprawling estates. But in particular, that home there, Villa Hermosa, it's amazing. And it did actually have the agave press. I think they got it out of Guadalajara, maybe Tequila, Mexico, and brought it over. And actually, underneath the dining room table was all glass. The dining room floor was all glass, and you'd actually look down into this tequila press room, which was amazing. But designed and built by a great architect out of Cabo San Lucas, Guillermo Payan Espacios, and he really just had free reins, and his architecture on it almost had a little bit of a Moorish kind of a feel, kind of the early Spanish, lots of rock and the bell towers, and actually tried to reduplicate, and I think they did a great job at it, some of the smokestacks from the Il Chernufo mines, right? You're familiar with that.
Oh, yeah.
The Il Chernufo region, right, Ryan? Yeah. And up there where they used to mine, I think it was copper, silver, gold, some of the minerals out of that area. So it was neat that they brought in that local flair, right? And the local architecture, which I think really just personalized the house.
So the house is done now.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
It's done, and they enjoy it quite often.
Right on. Well, so you shared with me recently a television show that was filmed, or started to be filmed, at Gran Sueños. Can we talk just a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I said, and you don't really know it until you get there, but it's a pretty special place in the Baja. One of the reasons is because it's remote, right? And one of the things I like to, tell friends and family, it's kind of what Cabo was 30, 40 years ago.
Sure.
Right? How we all started going down there, and the little fishing village and the pongas. And
I'm not that old, so I don't know that.
But yes, this year we were approached with an opportunity to host, I guess, a television reality show there on the property for one of the major networks out there, and I think they picked it a lot in part because of that, right? Because it had that Baja flair, and it had enough of the privacy, and kind of back to the basics of what Baja offered, from the ocean, from the beach, from the just the remoteness of it, and everything that they wanted to highlight. So it was a great success on our part. I'm not too sure how the reality show did, actually. But it was a great opportunity.
Yeah, I was going to say probably a pretty fun experience to watch it all unfold, huh?
It was, yeah. I'm not a big reality TV show person or, TV in general. So it was just a fun experience, working with a big network like that and how they move, because they really move a whole city in.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's 150, 200 people, and, they're running 24 hours a day. So it was really neat to see how they orchestrated that whole event. It was a big learning process.
The times that I've been around some of those big productions, one of the things that I've walked away from is, there is a across the board a solid respect for chain of command. Not because people are held up on a pedestal, but it's probably a lot like the military, which I've never served, but where they understand that chain of command is important to keep the organization. There's so many moving parts that they've got to rely on that chain of command to keep things functioning the way that they're supposed to.
I would agree with you on that, and coming from the boating world, there's only one captain. Right. And it's captain's call, and you can't question it, and you gotta just, take your orders and do your job. And, at the end you come out with a positive result.
So that's a perfect segue back into, what appears to be a time period in your life that you have to have grown up a little bit, right? So you were on the boat, then started developing or working with Steve, developing the Sueños property, and now you're grown up with kids and losing your hair and middle age, right?
Well, I mean, I think all that's true except for the growing up part. And I think my wife would attest to that, right?
Right.
She's like, really? Off to Baja again? So, yeah, but yeah, I mean, in all seriousness, right, we have to live life and do all the things we do. But, yeah, raising three boys and with my wife here in Southern California, and, being as serious as we have to, but always walking that line. And it's a great line to walk, and just really, really blessed that I'm able to, walk it on both sides of the border, right? And be able to do what we do in Southern California, and then also in Baja Sur and really the entire peninsula.
So, yeah, I was going to say, I think listeners like hearing about regular, I mean, you're not necessarily regular, but regular people that choose to bring their family across the border, and whether that be via airplane or vehicle, which I know you do both. And, I had people on, I had my nephews on a couple of weeks ago who are teenagers, and everybody can say, oh, it's no big deal, yeah, we go to Mexico, we go to Baja. But so you've chosen from the very beginning, I'm assuming, to take your family across the border in vehicles and airplanes. What are some words of wisdom that you would share to people that maybe are hesitant to do that or are contemplating it? And then what are some of the things that to be aware of?
Yeah, no, I think it's a good question, Ryan. And you're right. I mean, it's something that I've chosen to do since my kids were, I think the youngest they were, I think it was 6 months old, right? And we're in the truck and we're driving the peninsula, down to Cabo, La Paz, and really everywhere in between. And, it's just use your head, right? And if it doesn't sound like a very good idea, it's probably not. Whenever possible, always, try to, buddy up with somebody, always have a wingman, whenever possible. And just really, I think, respecting the land and the people and the roads. And, you hear stories everywhere, right? And whether you hear stories about Baja or Pennsylvania or downtown Los Angeles, things can happen anywhere. But I think if you use your head and you're smart and you're always on the lookout, and respecting the land, you're going to have a great trip and see a lot of things that a lot of people don't get to experience.
So that's a perfect way to ask this next question. As a person myself who's spent quite a bit of time down there, I've got my secret favorite spots, and I've shared some of them on the air before. What are or what is one? Let's not give them all away. Do you got a place, an experience, something that's off the beaten path that you're willing to share with the general public? A place to visit, a restaurant to eat at, something? Give us. I mean, you got enough time logged on that side of the border. You got to have some knowledge that the average person doesn't have.
Well, yeah, and always hesitant to give out those Baja secrets, right?
Yeah,
but,
I know.
It's
we can't have the attitude. We can't have the attitude of I got mine, and so go ahead and try to find yours.
No.
Every once in a while, we got to share, right?
Yeah, no. We share it. Actually, I mean, on that note, and only because we were both kind of involved with it, but I really feel that B.F. Goodrich and Cameron Steele's 50 Best of Baja that was done, I think, in 2017, yep. Right, 2018, right around the 50th anniversary of the Baja 1000. They promote did the 50 Best of Baja.
Yep.
To be honest with you, I was with Cameron on a number of those, and they nailed it.
Yeah.
Right. So get out there. The information's out there. Look it up. But one of my personal favorites is really a region, right, and not so much a specific place. And it's fairly well known, and it's remote northern Baja, but an area that I guess from the surfing world we refer to it as the Seven Sisters.
Okay.
It's a magical place. It's remote. It's everything Baja, right? It's rugged.
Very rugged.
It's amazing surfing potential. The fishing, all the way around. So if you had to ask me, I think that's one of my go-tos would be the Seven Sisters.
That's an area that I have not spent a ton of time in. And another place that I had not been until recently, and I got to credit Cameron for that as well, is Asuncion, Bahia Asuncion, which is remote region up there on the Pacific coastline. And I tell people this sometimes, for a guy that spent more than half of his life in Mexico, in Baja, and 10 of my 40, almost 7 years alive living there, I'm astounded at how much there still is to find. Still is. There's places to explore, things to bump into that you didn't know existed. And Asuncion was just an interesting, out of the way place. I've seen it on the map and been curious, but never gotten up there. And it had a cool vibe to it. Very rugged feeling. You feel the weather. You feel the ruggedness of that region.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that area. That whole Punta Eugenia. Bahia Tortugas, Asuncion definitely has a different feel to it all. And, to that point, with your experience and a lot of our, friends and people that enjoy the Baja like we do, there's still so much to see. And it was actually really interesting. Just this last month, actually, July, I think it was July 12th or something like that, we had a family trip. We were headed down to Baja, and we were taking some of one of my very best friends out of Idaho. He and his family, and had never done the drive with his family. He had done it in years past when we were growing up, right? But to take your wife and kids and the whole thing, right? It's something that we had really been planning for the last year. But it gave me a chance to kind of reflect personally about, taking my family back across the border for that first time. So it was neat to look at it and look at our itinerary and where we were going and how many nights we were staying where. And I realized how much more of the peninsula I haven't seen.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's just, there's always more and what's around that next corner. And it's just great that it just keeps on giving.
Definitely. So I had Jim McCoy on here several months ago, and it was actually shortly after I'd taken a helicopter trip down to San Felipe, and I've a new phase of life. I've become interested in hiking and rock climbing, and that flight from San Diego down to San Felipe over the mountains just opened my eyes up to a whole nother aspect of what Baja has to offer from a hiking and mountain climbing and rock climbing standpoint, which is nothing that I've done in the region yet, but I'm excited about